There are a lot of people every day who go unnoticed as they give of themselves in one way or another in time or resource. They ask for nothing in return, nor do they ask for any type of credit or recognition. But their lives and their love leave a lasting impact on those around them. Why? Sometimes we see this lasting impact for generations after. I want to find out what the common thread is. I want to find out what the common ground is. These are the stories that I want to share. I have had the privilege of meeting with people and talking with people from all around the world, and I hope to share their stories. The question I ask myself is, what common ground can we all stand on? I hope to find out in these conversations. A wonderful quote from Mother Teresa says, "There are no great things, only small things with great love. Happy are those." So Lyndsie, I'm going to start with you first of all. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. We have Lyndsie, you are in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Mariana, you are currently where are you sitting right now?
Now I'm in Portugal.
You are in Portugal.
But I live in France for 60 years now.
Okay. All right. That is awesome. Thank you for joining us. And I'm glad that we have decent connection. This is great. Okay, Lyndsie, I'm going to start with you in the first couple of questions. I would like you to share with me someone who has made an impact in your life and why. And has that person caused you to change how you approach life because of their influence and why?
Yes.
Okay.
So someone who's made a really big impact on my life is my friend Mariana. I met her when I was living in Paris, France, and I was joined the staff of a church that she was a member of and leading worship for. So when I got to the church, she was probably my first friend that I made that we connected really well. And I joined the worship team, and on top of being a really good leader, she was just a really good friend to me. And so throughout the 2 years that I lived there, I learned a lot from her.
Okay.
Coming from the U.S. and like the Midwest culture that I grew up in, mm-hmm. I think I learned for better or worse, that life is kind of about safety. Like the highest priority is being safe and being comfortable, and taking risks is very vulnerable and very I was very hesitant to take risks or to put myself out in front of people, and often really embarrassed and really shy about a lot of things. And one of the big things that I learned from Mariana is that it's really okay to take a lot of risks. Like, here's this person who studied economics and then recognized also a gifting for dance and chose to move to another country to pursue that, and worked really hard in her giftings in dance and in worship and in music and in art, and just did it without being afraid. And that was very inspiring to me, and to see her even in moments where she was afraid or she was nervous, that she just chose to do it anyway. And that really made me think, wow, it's okay if I try something and I don't know if I'm gonna be good at it.
Okay.
Or gave me the courage to pursue things that I think I might be good at, but I could fail, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it really doesn't really matter. And Mariana, her identity is so much hidden in the person of Jesus and in God, that she is able to navigate a world of where a lot of people don't know about the Lord, or her industry is highly competitive. And so what I thought was really cool is that you have this person who's in a highly competitive world, but their identity is not threatened if they don't get a show or they don't get booked for something, and their identity is not inflated when they do have success. And so seeing Mariana have a lot of success in the world of dance and hip hop in one of the biggest cities in the world, and have her be so humble and so kind, was just like, she just inspired me to want to be like her in that way. And so, you know, if you have met her, but she's just like the kindest, happiest, one of the happiest people you'll ever meet, one of the most joyful people you'll ever meet. My pastor and I talked a lot about how we both appreciated how Mariana would make the room light up wherever she went. Like if you have a conversation with her, you are laughing, you are smiling. She's one of the most joyful people that I've ever met. And I think me coming from a place where I often worry and overthink and I'm very stuck in my head, she was so good for me because she was always energetic and positive and really brought a sense of calm and courage to places that were often fearful for me.
Okay, so when I was reading the question, actually, there was one person that came right away to my mind. Then I was like, but something is missing. So I have can I share about two people?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, because one of them is one of my main teachers back in Paris, one of my dance teachers. His name is Philippe, and another one is my granddad.
Okay.
So my dance teacher, I'm just gonna call him Feist because that's his dancer name. It's easier for me.
Okay.
He influenced me because he's a known dancer in the underground hip hop community in Paris, but in the dancers in general, he's not very known. But he's an amazing teacher. He has really this gift to teach, to transmit, how do you say, information, right? To give information to people and just be so passionate about it. That I never saw him looking for people to, tell him compliments or whatever. No, he just did it because he just likes to do it and he loves it. And he has a special place in his heart to teach and pass that to people. So he's an amazing dancer, but he's an amazing teacher. And I learned so much just by watching him working in our classes. Sometimes he had 20 students in front of him and he had to manage everyone and create a piece in 1 hour. He had to create a piece and he just did it, giving indications to everybody. And he has this personality that you want to follow him. You want to listen to what he's saying and obey to him. So everything just happens so naturally. And then he also was one of the persons. So I remember when I was in Portugal and I started dancing, I had this thing of I have to be super attentive and I have to get all the details. And if I have a question, I have to say it because I need to know everything. I was always a bit like this. And I remember when I was having classes with him, there was a moment he just told me, Mariana, just stop making questions. Just do how you can do. And then in the end, if you see you really can't, then you'll make the question. Then you'll tell me. And that for me was as simple as it looks, but for me it made a big difference because from that moment on, I remember having so many questions in my mind, but I was okay, don't say nothing, just try it. And it's true that sometimes you just find the answers along the way, right? And then you're oh, I don't need to bother that person anymore because I just found the answer. Okay, so I was just saying was this little example of a class that he just told me just calm down, you'll get your answers, don't ask everything. And I remember that in my dance approach really helped me because then a lot of times then afterwards I was just much more observing and just trying to learn by myself. And then if I had a really big question and I would say it, that helped me to not be so much I need to know. But at the same time, even in my life in general, I remember that advice just stuck to my head for so many other situations where I was just not trying to get my answers right away and just wait for also to people that sometimes were also in a learning process and it would take some time to know the answer. And if I rushed to it, it would be even worse for them.
Right.
So that really impacted me. And so this teacher for me had a small but for me was big moment, just clicking to something. But then I keep working with him and I just see his work ethic and the way he connects everybody in the room, and he's a very patient person and he likes to listen to people, and just his passion for teaching that for me, I'm starting to teach a little bit now, but I'm a little bit scared still of that. So I look up to him a lot, the way he does it and the way he's so relaxed and when he teaches. And so that also influenced a lot as I'm starting to teach now. And the second person I would say is my granddad, because for me he's a big example of of a man with faith, and that searches a lot to have like precious moments with the Lord, like by himself and searching, and he loves to dig into scriptures, and he's very passionate about the end of times, and for so many years he's been studying so many things, and he's always so passionate when he talks to us about it. And he's part of this small little church in his neighborhood, and he did have, when he was younger, he did had a ministry with some other people where they impacted a lot of people in Lisbon, but he was never this person that looked for being known or for, no, he kept his space and very humble about it, and still he was searching so much, and he's such a wise man of God. I never ever saw any kind of trying to be more known or trying, he just kept his space, and he trusted that God will use them where he was, whether he was in a big church or in a small church. So he's been a very big example for me of humility, and also he's very selfless. That's how you say, like the opposite of selfish.
Yep, selfless.
Like so many times, I was living at their house when I was studying in Lisbon, and they would never ask me like where I was going or asking me to not be too late. They will always give me my freedom, but they just asked me to at least tell them if I would leave the house, something like this. They were never trying to interfere in my life just because I was living in their house. Even though they could, they would have the right to ask certain things, but they never did, because they were really respectful and really wanted me to have my space. Or even nowadays, sometimes I call him and I understand he's like a little bit, but I don't want to take your time. And I'm like, no, right now, I want to speak to you. I want to talk to you. It's okay. And even he's like, I don't want people to feel like obligated to call me just because I'm here alone at my house. I was like, no, not at all. He's always trying to not bother people. And for me, that's also the example, because me, sometimes I'm a little bit like, if I need something, I'm like, but I have the right to have that, or I have the right to speak with that person, or, and sometimes I remember him and I'm like, no, you don't, just leave people and leave the situation and let things sometimes just happen naturally. If they don't happen, it's okay, not trying to have things from my own. So that he's a big example of that as well. So humility, and also not selfish at all. And plus of that, like such a wise man. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Name someone that you feel has made an impact in your community, where you live, where you used to live, someplace. It doesn't have to be current. It could be in the past. What they did and what impact that you have seen that they have done. And either one of you can go. If you want to rock, paper, scissors, I don't even care.
Go, Lyndsie.
Okay. This is hard because there's so many, really.
I know. Just pick one.
I have already someone in my head. So
okay, you go ahead. Let Lyndsie think.
Yeah.
Okay. So the person that came to my mind, so it's kind of my community, but like you said, we could choose for someone that is not exactly our community.
Absolutely.
So it's back in Lisbon, where my brother works in a church. He's a full-time missionary right now, so he's working in this church with his wife. And this church started with another couple, very young couple. And it was actually, I think her was the first one that started to have this dream, and her father was already a pastor of a church. So then she just continued his work, planting another church with the same name, but in another city. So her name is Gabriela, so Gabi. And she's very young. I don't even think she's probably 27, 28, something like this. She's already married. She had a kid. And so they met my brother and my sister-in-law, because they were starting this church. And so they actually wanted some help as well. And so this church is the first, we can say, international church in Lisbon, because there are some English-speaking church in Lisbon, but they're not full international.
Okay.
They will have their meetings in Portuguese and then someone translating maybe or something.
Okay.
This is like the first fully international. So they only speak in English, the worship in English, the meeting is in English. So it's really to receive international people to the church that don't speak any Portuguese. And they're very much focused also on migrants and refugees, because they have this project called Lisbon Project that is associated with the church, but is a project itself and it's to help. It's a humanitarian project in Lisbon to help migrants and refugees that come to Portugal. And so I heard some of interviews that she gave, and she has such a heart also for people, and she tells her story that since she was a kid, she traveled to Africa to a mission, and she saw the needs, and she came back home and she was like, Dad, I cannot ignore this. I have to do something. She was just a little kid. I don't even think she was maybe 11 or 12 years old, and she was already very bothered about this. So now they're working in this project and in this church in Lisbon, and the church grew so much from last year. In September, they changed to a new place. That was also a miracle how they got the place. And the church was just a small group that was, in this small place, but they were so passionate about it, and they really feel that God was really moving them to do this, that they got a new space, and now the church has grown, and the project to help these migrants and refugees has grown as well. So they're supporting so many families that go there every week to kids to learn Portuguese or English, to help with math. They help the parents to get their diplomas and their certificates to go church for employment. They have partnership with supermarkets so that the people can have employment right away. And it's amazing the job that they're working and the impact they're having in Portugal right now. And now for the situation with the virus, they were doing this fundraising to people to have money to give, packages of food for these families that some of them, they are from a foreign country, they're migrants, they're refugees, they don't have almost any capacity to work, and some of them really don't have any work, and they have kids at home, and so they really need help, and they got to do this fundraising, and they have every week they distribute a lot of food packages. They got money to now 4 months to continue to distribute every week to this family that really need their support. And then they started also this schooling program that they challenge people that volunteer to also help the kids that are at home. And the parents only speak Arabic, so the kids have their homework in Portuguese, but they don't have no idea sometimes how to do it. So, the impact has been amazing. And that's someone that in the community has been like, I've been really, wow, and just so inspired by her strength and her willingness to just hear God was saying this. And I just went through it, and now she's doing a great impact in Lisbon. Of course, with a team of people. That's sure. For sure it's not just her, but
of course.
But she was
was her vision
to kind of push it too.
Right. And I think what I extra love about that is it's not just drawing people in a spiritual sense, but they are being practical, because one of the things that drives me crazy is you don't just focus on the spiritual. Jesus didn't focus on just the spiritual. He focused on the practical. He focused on taking care of the needs of the people outside of it just being spiritual. And I think that is extremely important. And in this day and age, that is what is going to draw people to understanding the love of who Jesus is.
Yeah. And so the project is in the same building as a church, but in different floors.
Yeah.
But of course they always show their faith, and they do sometimes community dinners, and they do this thing each culture has a dinner per month. So they do a Syrian dinner or Iraq dinner or
that's
whatever.
Awesome.
But they always ask if it's okay to make a prayer before, and they still try as much as they can to share their faith. That's also their goal, is to share the Christianity as among these people. But they're not an easy people, because a lot of them have already a very strong Islamic religion.
Sure.
But they had already 2 people, I think, right now that have gave their life to Jesus through the work that you're doing. And, you never know how this can start, because with one person can lead to 2 or 3 women that had a conversation with her. And, we don't know. So they're just doing, like you said, such a practical, actually help people, and then still opening the doors to, if you want to know more about Jesus, we're also here.
But that is what the common ground. Everyone needs to eat. Everyone needs to have employment.
Exactly.
And then the ripple effect of what that looks like in a longer term on them emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, in every way.
Exactly.
The person, or really the family, that I want to talk about is a family in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I've known them my whole life. They've been a big part of my my upbringing, and that is the Smith family. Thomas and Tony Smith are the parents, and they had 3 kids, Cameron, Corey, and Angel. And this family was a part of the church that my dad was a pastor at growing up. And the kids, Kim, Corey, and Angel especially, took care of myself and my siblings a lot when my parents were out of town and babysat. And so our family just became very close. And I've learned so much from this family over the years. So Thomas was a school teacher, and then he became a principal of Southside High School, and has been involved in helping just teach young people his entire life, and investing in people and pouring out into students particularly. And his kids, Corey is now the principal of what's called Smith Academy. So Corey and Cam and Thomas opened up a boys' school here in Fort Wayne, and are just doing incredible work, investing particularly in the young men of the city, and in a community that's often marginalized. So Thomas is Black and his wife is white. And in this part of the country, for many years, and even now, a lot of people still have a lot of racism, and there's a lot of institutional racism in this area. And so there's a big economic divide still in the city because of the long-standing institutional racism. So you have very poor Black neighborhoods, and you have more affluent white neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And that is still a thing. It's unfortunately still exists here. And what Thomas and his family have done have displayed a level of just professionalism and kindness and leadership to both the white and Black communities of what it looks like to be a family that comes together who are different, and historically we're not supposed to be together, and learning how to lead well in both cultures. And so not only have they have taught me so much and helped me kind of break down my own internalized racist ideas of just growing up in this society, is what you have as a white person is you are taught things that you don't realize, I think, until someone helps you unlearn them. Right. And so Thomas and that whole family has been impactful in that way in my life. But I think just seeing the amount of hours and the amount of blood, sweat, tears, and prayer that they put into investing in young people is really inspiring to me. And the amount of young people's lives that they have changed and impacted, I think really only God knows really the number of generations that have been changed because of this family. And it's interesting because Thomas was the principal at Southside High School for a number of years, and then he started Smith Academy with his family. And Smith Academy is for just a boys' school in Fort Wayne, and predominantly minority students, and just really giving opportunity in a city where there has not been opportunity for minority students. And it's incredible to see how it's changing not only the minority community, but the white community, to see that minorities don't have less skills or less leadership. It's that they've had a lack of opportunity and a lack of resource. And so God is really using this family to bring in healing and truth and correction to where it has needed to be for a really long time. So I just love watching the family. I love learning from them, and just kind of getting to be an extended part of their family for a long time.
One of my favorite stories is hearing about, he would literally sing walking through the hallways of Southside High School. He has this big, huge, bellowing voice. And, he's a big, huge guy himself, and he's just whoa, walking through the halls, singing to people and stuff like that. And it was like, it's so awesome to hear him. Yeah. And he just is the epitome of Jesus with skin on. He really is. Really, it's amazing. Really, Thank you for that. All right. Do you think that people who are making what seemingly is like a small impact in their communities, the people that you have spoken about in the past few questions, do you think that those small impacts, is that the right word? A small impact that they are giving out, so to speak, is creating a bigger impact and creating that ripple effect that I talked about earlier on? And when you think about the people who are making those impacts, what common thread are you seeing in the lives of these people that they either mostly or all kind of exhibit? Does that make sense to you? Okay. Yeah. All right. So whoever wants to answer first, go ahead.
I'll go just because it's like here. And okay. I don't want to lose it.
Yeah. Get it out before you forget it.
Okay. So I would say in both, yes, that I think when people do seemingly small things, they have a massive ripple effect. So, for instance, my friend Mariana, if she is in a dance class or she's leading a team at church and she is encouraging someone, that encouragement makes someone feel either empowered and makes them recognize their need for God. It helps them recognize how much God loves them. And that person takes those encouraging, truthful things and makes a change in their life, and they're able to impact someone else.
Okay.
Where they're able to just experience life in a new way, where they're able to serve someone better or love their family better. In the situation of my friend, the Smith family in Fort Wayne, the students that family impacts not only helps that student maybe graduate, maybe get a job at an economic level that their family never would have dreamed of, but helps heal emotional wounds so that next generation of people is not only more financially secure, but emotionally and healthier and spiritually healthier. And their family now for generations is completely different than those who have come before them. And the people that their family impacts, friends and neighbors, are also impacted because this one principal, this one dance teacher, this one school teacher took the time to say, hey, I believe in you. I believe that I see more in you than what you're giving right now. Let me walk with you and show you how to get to a new place. Mm-hmm. And I think for both Mariana and my friends, the Smith family, the common denominator and the ability to have changed lives is the person of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think that I know that without him in any of their lives, the freedom and the success that they have experienced would not happen. And the hard work that they were able to put in, they would not have been able to sustain, because Christ is the one who gives them that energy. He gives them that strength. He gives them that wisdom and intelligence and ideas creatively outside of their own human capacity to do.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Miss Mariana, it is your turn.
I agree for sure. Because who are we also to evaluate what is a small impact, right?
Right.
Just we never know. So whatever we do, if we are doing it with a purpose, that can transform like what we did one person. If we did it to 3 people, if those 3 people do to 6 others, like that can exponential grow, and we didn't even know about it, right? And for sure I can see my teachers, like also the way he behaved. He had a class of 20 people. Those 20 people, if each one of them like have the same principles to their 20 students, like it's exponential, right?
Right.
The thing went to my granddad, also the example he gave to our family, like each one of us in our family can now give that to people around us. So of course, small impacts can have a huge impact in the end. And like, once again, we don't know what a small impact is sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know what that person that had that small input, what that person can do can be enormous. So that small input actually made something great, right?
Right.
I would say I think the common ground that I see is this humble attitude of not uplifting the person itself, but try to uplift others. And I think that's what I see like common in all this, in the people that I mentioned, being my teacher, Vice, being my granddad, Orlando, and being Gabriella. It's that they're not doing that to people to get to know them and their name be out there. They're doing this because they love each one of them, what they did. And so it's not about them, but it's about the others. And yeah, so I think that's a very common ground for all of them. And I think as Christians, we also can recognize that that's the basic attitude, is not to give glory to ourselves, but glory to God, right? So it's never about us. So I think that's also a way that we can see the character of God also in that situation of like, it's for him and not for ourselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think one of the underlying things that, on what I feel like God's wanting me to bring out in this particular thing as well as the other things, is people often feel like nobody needs them, nobody wants them, or they aren't important.
Uh-huh.
And especially it seems to be worse and worse and worse as the world goes on. And it's such a lie. It's such a lie.
Yeah.
Because of these very things.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the old movie, It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know if you have seen that movie, Mariana.
No.
He was just a common guy, and he was living a common life, but he didn't feel as he was doing anything important, and he decided that life would have just been better off without him. And God sent down this old crotchety angel to let him have that, and it went back. And so he was there, but no one knew he was there. Or no, they did know he was there, but he wasn't who he used to be.
Uh-huh.
And he went back in there, and everything had changed. Everything had changed because his seemingly small impact was gone. It had been erased from the earth. And I think we need to get back to knowing and understanding that we don't have to do these grandiose things in front of everybody in order to feel important. I mean, I struggle with it myself. I'm just raising kids. I'm just doing this. I'm just doing that. And it's such a lie that we tell ourselves, or we are told, or society tells us, or whatever the influences are. And this is a big thing of the ripple effect of having common ground, doing common things, and what that change looks like.
Yeah.
So
this always reminded me the story that Kelly tell about the bus driver that took her mom to school when she was a little kid, that apparently she was the only one in the bus, but that guy kept on driving Kelly's mom to church, right? Going to church. So every Sunday morning he was going to drive a little girl to go into church, and was the only one, and he kept on doing it. And like, she then became the mom, Kelly now also being a pastor in the church in Paris. It's because that little thing that he was doing that maybe he thought it was insignificant, like, transformed someone's life, and that life transforms many others.
that's
So
exactly
that
right there.
me of
That's
that
another great story right there. Thank you.